Welcome to Nocturnal Echoes. I'm your host, Bastian Crow. The stories you're about to hear come from a personal archive, a growing collection passed down through family, shared among friends, and discovered in old journals and time-worn letters. The kind of pages you don't find twice. With each episode, we'll share some of these ghostly encounters, brief flickers of the unknown, meant to quiet the noise and stress of the day, to guide your mind toward darker places, where stories linger. And once a month, we reach further back, the monthly special features, an entry pulled from one of our centuries-old diaries or letters, accounts that often feel more like warnings than memories. You never know if we'll follow the trail of a witch hunt from the 1600s, experience a nightmare recorded in the 1800s, or simply hear how those who came before us coped with the unexplained. Be sure to follow or like and subscribe so you don't miss when the past speaks again. Now, dim the lights, find your favorite spot, and get ready. Nocturnal Echoes begins.
I should have never followed Chris into that place. We'd heard the stories like everyone else, the prison rotting away deep in the woods, closed in 1983 after a series of unexplained deaths and a riot that left half the staff missing. Locals say it's cursed, that it whispers. Chris, of course, couldn't resist. He always chased things like this: ghost towns, asylums, tunnels. I tagged along mostly to keep him from doing something stupid alone. We reached the fence just after sunset. The place looked like a rusted skeleton, silhouetted against a dying sky. The gate was twisted open like something had forced its way out long ago. Chris grinned as he stepped through. "Come on, man, 1 hour, in and out." I hesitated but followed. Inside, I could see my breath. The air stank of mold and something metallic, like old blood. Our flashlights bounced off rusted bars, peeling paint, and piles of debris. It was deathly quiet. No birds, no rats, just the echo of our footsteps. Chris had this old camcorder strapped to his chest. He kept talking to it like we were hosting some ghost hunting show. His voice too loud in the silence. "Cell block C. Let's see if the rumors are true." I didn't like how sound carried in there. It was like the building swallowed our voices and spat them back distorted. About 20 minutes in, we were in what looked like a common room. Shattered glass covered the floor, and overturned metal chairs lay in piles. That's when I heard it. A whisper. It was faint, like someone murmuring just around the corner. I stopped and looked at Chris. "You hear that?" I whispered. He nodded. "Yeah, thought that was you." We both went still. Another whisper. Closer this time. A breath brushing against the back of my neck, though nothing was there. I spun around. "This isn't cool anymore." Chris, of course, pushed forward. "Let's just check the east wing, then head out." He started down a narrow hallway. I followed, against my better judgment. The deeper we went, the worse it got. The walls here were covered in scratches. Hundreds of them. Words etched into stone. "Listen. Don't look. He lives in silence." I kept trying to laugh it off, but my skin felt tight, like something was watching us. We reached solitary confinement. The air was suffocating down there, thick and cold. Most of the cell doors were shut, but a few hung open, creaking ever so slightly. And that's when the whispers came back. Only now they were talking to us.
"Why are you here? We were quiet. You made them listen."
Chris and I froze. I couldn't even speak. The lights flickered. My flashlight dimmed for half a second. When it came back, Chris wasn't next to me. "Chris?" I called. No answer. I started moving, fast, heart in my throat. Every shadow looked like it might reach out and grab me. Then I heard it. His voice. "Jordan, this way!" Relief surged through me. I ran toward the sound, deeper into the prison. But the voice wasn't right. It was off. like someone doing a bad impression of Chris. And it kept repeating, "This way, Jordan! This way!" That's when I knew I'd screwed up. I turned to go back the way I came, but the hallway was gone. Before I could analyze what happened and find my bearings, I heard them again. Only this time, they were in the room with me.
You wanted to find us. You wanted to hear us. Now we hear you. Now we hear you. Now we hear you.
I backed into the wall as the noises in my head grew louder. I nearly fell when I stumbled into the opening I came from. As I struggled to gain my balance, something knocked me down. It was Chris. He grabbed me and yelled, "Go, go!" I dropped my flashlight in the crash with Chris and didn't have time to pick it up. As I ran behind him, I remember thinking, if I lose contact with Chris, I'm done for. We made it to the end of the hallway that leads to solitary confinement. Gasping for air, we looked back into the dark path we came from. In the distance, you could see my flashlight still on and a blinking red light. It was the camera. Chris dropped it when he ran into me. I looked at Chris, and he stared straight in the direction we just came from. I said, "Don't even think about it." Chris didn't answer me. He took one step towards the hallway, but froze when we saw my flashlight move. It was subtle, but it clearly moved. Suddenly, the flashlight rose and turned towards us, as if someone picked it up and flashed it in our direction. That was enough to shatter any thought of retrieving the camera. We both sprinted out of the prison as fast as we could. We made it home safe, but things were never the same. We never spoke about the encounter or went thrill-seeking at haunted locations again.
When I first rented the house on Weaver Lane, I wasn't thinking about ghosts. I was thinking about square footage, Jack's new school, and keeping rent within budget. The place was old but cozy, with a fenced-in backyard where Jack could run around. It felt like a decent place for a fresh start after the divorce. Jack, only 7, had gone quiet during the move. So had I. We both needed a reset. He picked the bedroom at the end of the hall, the one with a slanted ceiling and an old toy chest left behind. I didn't question it. In hindsight, maybe I should have. It started with a name. "Who's Adam?" I asked one night over dinner. Jack looked up from his nuggets. "My friend." "From school?" He shook his head. "He lives here. He said he used to sleep in my room." I smiled. "Oh yeah? Is he nice?" "He doesn't like loud noises," Jack said. "Or when I touch his stuff." "His stuff?" Jack nodded toward the toy chest. "The blocks. They used to be his. Kids make things up, especially lonely kids." I let it go. "Okay," I said. "Just be polite, I guess." Jack smiled and went back to eating like it was the most normal thing in the world. Over the next few days, I heard Jack having full-on conversations alone in his room. Not silly pretend stuff, but real back and forth. I said, "It's mine now. You can't make me leave." Once he told me Adam got mad and knocked over his blocks, that he pushed a chair. "Imaginary friends can't really move things," I reminded him. Jack didn't answer. I started waking up in the middle of the night, heart racing with no idea why. Every time I'd find Jack awake too, sitting up, eyes open. "He talks to me when I sleep," he said once. Another night I found a block in the hallway. I picked it up and saw something scratched into the wood. Adam. I didn't like that. Then came the night everything changed. A thunderstorm rolled in after dark. Rain tapped against the windows. I dozed off on the couch, half watching TV. Then I heard yelling. Jack's voice loud and angry. "Stop it." I said, "Stop it." I was halfway down the hall before I was fully awake. I opened his door. The room looked normal. Jack stood in the middle, fists clenched, tears on his cheeks. "He was yelling," Jack said. "He said it's his room and I have to leave." I crouched beside him. "You're safe." It's just us here. He shook but let me tuck him in. His eyes stayed wide, staring past my shoulder. I'm right here, I said. Try to sleep. He nodded, just barely. I closed the door and stepped into the hallway. 3 steps later, crash. A chair scraped, glass shattered. Jack screamed. I ran back and flung the door open. The room was chaos. The toy chest had flipped, blocks scattered across the floor. Jack's desk was crooked, the lamp in shards beside the bed. The curtains blew in the wind, the window wide open, though I know I shut it that morning. Jack huddled in the corner, hands over his ears. Jack. I pulled him into my arms. You're okay. I've got you. He's mad, he sobbed. I told him to go away and he got mad. I didn't say it was a dream. I didn't pretend it was nothing. I just held him until the room stopped shaking and the storm moved on. I wanted to believe it was stress or imagination, something explainable. But it wasn't. The next morning I packed. Jack didn't argue. Are we leaving because of Adam? Yeah, I said. We are. Good, he said. He doesn't like when people leave. That chilled me. But I didn't ask more. Now we live in a small apartment. No old toy chests. No creaky floors. Jack sleeps through the night again. Sometimes he still mentions Adam. Adam wouldn't like this, he said once as he played with his new toys. Do you still talk to him? I asked. No, he said. He stayed in the house. Good. I've thought about going back, asking the landlord, looking up the history of the house. But I never do. Some doors are better left closed. And I still wonder if the window in that room ever shut again.
I've never been one to believe in ghost stories. I always figured people just let their imaginations run wild, especially when they were out in the wilderness, far from the glow of streetlights and the hum of traffic. That kind of silence does strange things to your brain. But what happened near the Rio Grande that night has never left me. It was early October, just cool enough to make a fire feel a good after dark, but still warm enough to sleep under the stars. My friend Marco and I had taken the weekend to camp about a mile from the river in northern New Mexico, just outside Taos. We found a flat spot tucked between juniper trees and a rocky outcrop that gave us a clear view of the canyon edge. We weren't far from the trail, but far enough to feel alone. No other campers, no rangers, just the two of us, a tent, a fire pit, and the low hiss of the wind threading through the mesquite. We spent the first part of the night drinking a couple of beers and swapping stories. Around midnight, the wind started to pick up, so we pulled our folding chairs closer to the fire and sat in that kind of silence that only comes when you're far from everything. No cars, no phones, no cities, just fire crackle and the distant rush of the river below. That's when we heard it. It started low. I thought it was the wind moaning through the canyon at first, but then it rose. A woman's cry, not a scream or animal. It was unmistakably human and grieving. It sounded like a woman in mourning, deep sobs that seemed to be ripped from her throat. The kind of sound you hear at funerals when someone's held it in too long and it finally breaks loose. But the weirdest part? It wasn't coming from one place. It was downriver, then suddenly upriver, then back again. The voice seemed to travel along the water like it was riding on the surface, skipping over the rocks without losing volume. Did you hear that? I asked, sitting up straighter. Marco was already scanning the trees. That was a woman. That was definitely a woman crying. We looked at each other for a beat, then both stood up, instinctively, stepping toward the edge of our firelight. The sobbing stopped. We listened. Nothing but the wind again. Then suddenly, the cry came back. But this time closer, like maybe just 100 yards down the canyon wall. It rose and echoed, then whooshed up the river faster than any human could run. There was no engine noise, no tires on gravel, nothing that would suggest a vehicle, just the crying, like it was carried. Maybe it's the wind bouncing off the canyon, I said, trying to ground myself in something logical. Marco shook his head. That's not wind. That's a person. That's real. The fire flickered as the wind picked up, and the sound came again, more urgent, like the woman had moved even closer. But again, it rushed away as fast as it had arrived, gone in a flash upriver, swallowed by the vastness of the night. Hell no, Marco muttered. Nope, I'm not staying here. We started packing. Not even a real pack-up, just grabbing flashlights and whatever gear we could throw into our bags. We left the tent. We left the fire burning low in the pit. It didn't feel like a smart move, but there was something in the pit of my stomach that told me we should not stay, and Marco felt it too. We took the trail back toward the car in the dark, our headlamps casting thin white beams through the sagebrush. My pulse was pounding. Every little rustle in the bushes made me flinch. Behind us, somewhere beyond the hills and trees, the crying came again, closer, but never visible. It didn't feel like something we could follow. It felt like something that could follow us. When we reached the trailhead and climbed into the truck, we didn't say anything for a while. I drove. Marco kept looking out the passenger window, eyes scanning the brush, like he half expected the woman to be standing there. Eventually, he spoke. You think someone was messing with us? No flashlight. No sound of footsteps. No cars. You saw how far that voice traveled? Yeah, he said. Too fast. Too far. Too wrong. We spent the rest of the night in a motel back in town. We didn't even bother checking out the campsite the next day. We both agreed. Leave it. Let someone else take it. Later, I read about the legends of the weeping woman, a ghost who mourns her drowned children, forever bound to rivers and waterways. Some stories say she lures people to their deaths. Others say she's just trapped in her own sorrow, a loop of eternal mourning. People ask me why I don't camp near rivers anymore. I just tell them I prefer the mountains. But the truth, sometimes, when the wind is just right and I'm driving alone, I think I hear it again, that low, echoing sob, rushing past the car like it's chasing the river. And I remember the sound. A woman in mourning, where there should be silence.
I bought this place 6 months ago. A modest 2-bedroom on the edge of town, nothing fancy, but it was mine. After years of bouncing between apartments, having to hear neighbours through thin walls and muffled conversations in the hallway, the silence of owning my own home was a luxury. At first it was eerie, too quiet even, but eventually I found comfort in the solitude. I settled in. One of my little quirks, and yeah, I know it's weird, is this habit I have when I'm drifting off to sleep. I knock on the wall beside my bed. Not hard, not loud. Just a soft little rhythm, the same every time. A kind of jingle. Da-da-da-da-da-da-dum. 6 knocks like a short lullaby. I don't know when it started, sometime In childhood, maybe. But for some reason, it always helped me feel safe, like I was tucking the night in with a familiar tune. The wall I knock on separates my bedroom from the guest room. That room is empty, has been since I moved in. No furniture, no decorations, nothing but a few unopened boxes I haven't gotten around to dealing with. Last Tuesday night, I got into bed at my usual time, around 11, and turned off the light. I laid there for a while in the dark, letting the silence wrap around me, and like I always do, just before sleep took hold, I reached over and tapped my little jingle on the wall. Da-da-da-da-da-dum. I let out a breath and closed my eyes. Then from the other side of the wall, I heard it. Da-da-da-da-da-dum. Same rhythm, same pause between beats, but it wasn't an echo, it couldn't be. It came from the guest room. I sat up fast, heart climbing into my throat. I must have imagined it. Maybe a sound from outside, pipes, the house settling. I waited a minute, not moving, not breathing. I knocked it again. Softer this time. Da-da-da-da-da-dum. And again the reply came. Da-da-da-da-da-dum. Not louder, not softer. Just there. Perfectly mimicked. I jumped out of bed, flicked on the light, and grabbed the bat I keep near my nightstand. I swept through the guest room first. Empty. No sign of anyone. I checked the windows. Locked. Closet. Empty. Then I moved through the rest of the house. Living room, kitchen, laundry room, even the crawl space access in the hallway. Nothing. No sign of a break-in. No open doors, no footprints, no sounds. I stood in the middle of the house for a long while, listening. It was so still, I could hear the soft hum of the fridge and my own heartbeat in my ears. Eventually, I went back to bed. I left the hallway light on. I told myself I'd just imagined it, that it had to be a coincidence, maybe even my own knocking echoing weirdly through the walls. I didn't knock again. I stared at the ceiling for a while, and then rolled over and pulled the blanket up to my ears. I was just starting to drift off when I heard it again. Da-da-da-da-da-dum. Clear. Deliberate. From the wall behind me, my stomach dropped. My whole body went cold. I stayed still, hoping it would stop, hoping that if I didn't respond, whatever was doing this would go away. But a minute passed, maybe two, and then da-da-da-da-da-dum. It was more impatient now, almost expectant, like someone or something was waiting for me to knock back, but I didn't. I lay there, with my hands clenched under the blanket, trying not to move or breathe, or even think too loudly. Every part of me screamed to run, but I couldn't bring myself to move. Then after the third time I didn't respond, everything changed. A bang slammed against the wall, not a knock, not a jingle, a slam, flat-handed, violent, then another, and another, bang, bang, bang. The whole wall shook. It sounded like someone that was on the other side slamming their palms into it with everything they had, like they were trying to break through, or worse, trying to get me to respond. I didn't scream, but I ran. I bolted out of the room barefoot, half blind in the light from the hallway. My phone was on the nightstand, but I didn't go back for it. I didn't even look behind me. I locked myself in the bathroom and curled up in the tub, heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. I stayed there all night. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I stared at the door until morning. When the sun came through the tiny frosted window, I finally opened the door. I walked slowly, checking the hallway, the bedrooms, the living room. Every door locked, nothing out of place, no marks on the wall, no broken plaster, not a single sign that anything had happened. I picked up my phone from the nightstand. I had no missed calls, no texts, no notifications. That day, I didn't go to work. I just sat on the couch, TV on, mute, staring at the hallway. I didn't eat. I barely moved. I didn't tell anyone. What would I even say? By that evening, it was like it had never happened. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I felt like I was being watched, though I never saw anyone. That night, I slept on the couch, and I didn't knock. I never have since. The strange thing is, I sometimes feel the urge to, like My hand will twitch as I'm falling asleep, ready to knock that little rhythm out of habit. And every time I have to remind myself, I don't know what's on the other side of that wall. I don't want to. It's been months now. Nothing's happened. No more knocks. No more slams. The guest room stays empty, door closed. Sometimes I think about knocking on the wall just to check if I get a response. But then, I remember the 3 bangs on the wall and I quickly drop the idea. The scariest part isn't what happens if I get a response. It's what happens when I don't respond back.
Thank you for listening to tonight's episode of Nocturnal Echoes. If tonight's story stayed with you or helped quiet the weight of the day, consider liking, subscribing, or sharing the show with someone who finds comfort in the company of shadows. I'm your host, Bastion Crow. Until next time, keep your eyes open and the lights low.